Truth be told, I didn't want to make this video. I assumed that it would just end up being the naval nations dominating the map and everything else would be pretty boring. But I'm definitely happy that I was wrong. This mod turns every province in EU4 into an island, including the wastelands. This means that war will be much different from vanilla, with a naval invasion required for every single occupation. We're gonna go a few hundred years and see how things turn out, and if you enjoy the video, make sure you leave a like and share it with a friend. Also, don't forget to subscribe and ding the bell if you haven't already, so you get notified when these videos go live. And as much as you might think that something like this would benefit Great Britain and or England, you're going to have to remember that this is all inland seas now, and every galley that these guys have is going to be much more powerful than their galleys outside out here. The heavy ships will probably get swarmed. The 100 Years' War probably not going to go well for England. And remember, this is all islands, so France doesn't necessarily have anything stopping them from getting over and taking this land as well. So it's hard to say how things are going to go for the majors, but I definitely know I'm going to be keeping an eye on this region, seeing who comes out on top. And less than 30 years in, we have Ming collapsing, though you're seeing some weird stuff, like these guys are popping out as one province minor because Ming is able to fight off some of the rebels, just not all of them. Like they can't land and kill the rebels that are occupying the islands. So we've got a couple of one province minor rebels, a couple of bigger ones that have popped out. But yeah, Ming definitely not doing well early on, but that's pretty par for the course this patch. And while we're over here, might as well take a look at Japan, seeing Ashikaga uniting the majority of the development of the Japanese Isles. And there is a lot of isles now in the Japanese Isles. Poland is doing pretty good. They have their personal union, and they're also supporting the independence of Sweden, who is very disloyal at the moment. And there's a formable you don't see very often, or at least I feel like you don't see it very often. The Mughals have popped out here. Timmy has integrated his subjects, and it looks like he got all of them actually, and made his way over here. And it looks like they're pushing despite, you know, having to do it navally. I imagine that the alliance networks can make it a little scary with a bunch of these inland seas. If you get like 4 or 5 versus 1, it's gonna be really hard to get enough galleys to get naval dominance, but looks like they did it. And I guess we can't really be too surprised that Venice is dominating in a game mod that makes it so naval powers are the ones who get the focus. So yeah, they're dominating, as is France actually to the north of them. It looks like they got their Burgundian inheritance, but their subjects were broken free. So I'm not really sure how that dynamic works. England is also making a ton of progress up here, not so much in Ireland, though they are annexing them slowly, but they did full annex Scotland. Meanwhile, the Mughals have pushed across the Straits of Hormuz, not actually taking Hormuz though. And I imagine a mod like this just completely cripples these hordes, because the movement speed essentially means nothing, which is one of the strong points of hordes. And they have to land armies in order to even fight. So I imagine that the hordes are not going to do much, but you know, I'd be happy to be proven wrong. Though to be honest, with all this coastline, I think it'll be hard for most anybody who doesn't have a massive navy to land armies. So coastal batteries are definitely going to be like an absolute S-tier building this time around, but those aren't going to be unlocked for quite a few technologies. Though there are some defenses that you can set up around an island, kind of like you could set up a virtual private network around yours. Because when you consider yourself one of the many little islands floating around in the massive ocean that is the internet, there are many baddies that want to come after you for your personal and financial information. Setting up a virtual private network like Surfshark VPN can make a world of difference, placing those coastal batteries all around your little island and giving you the defense that you otherwise wouldn't have. What Surfshark does in a nutshell is it scrambles the way that others would be able to read your online data through a process called encryption, which makes you safer at home, and even more so when you're using public Wi-Fi, which is a super popular way for hackers to gain access to your devices. Your IP address, which is basically your unique ID on the web, can also be masked, unlinking your location and internet usage from you, which is essential for those of you who value privacy. And while security and privacy are an incredible feature, many may not know that part of a VPN service, like the services that Surfshark offers, allows you, the user, to essentially be anywhere in the world. That means, for example, my Aussie friends who have random games banned in your country because someone was smoking the devil's lettuce in it would be able to bypass that censorship nonsense and play whatever games you want. So go on with your Oregon Farm and RimWorld, mates. There's a lot more that Surfshark offers, including ad block features, desktop alerts, antivirus, and more that I don't have time to list here, so I encourage you to check it out for yourself. Set up the coastal batteries on your island and get 3 months of security for free when you register using my code Chewbert. Registration on just one account gives you access to Surfshark services on unlimited devices, and the free 30-day money-back guarantee eliminates basically any risk on your part. So check out the link in the description and get a slick deal on VPN services from Surfshark and support your boy at the same time. Again, that is code Chewbert for an extra 3 months for free. We have a formed Great Britain as well as Russia over here. The Mughals haven't really done a whole lot considering how powerful they were. I don't know. They just like formed the Mughals and then kind of stayed still. I think they may have annexed a couple more islands up here, maybe up here in the Himalayas. And they've gotten a couple of random islands over here, but they don't seem to be that interested in this India archipelago. China is even more of a mess than it was before. That's not really a surprise. It's always a mess, but this time just even more so. Korea has gained one province over there in Manchuria, and Japan has united and is looking quite good, to be honest. But what I think is one of the funnier things in this mod is that there is no like land paths to things, obviously. So like they can just colonize random islands over here in whatever Indiana or whatever this area is, and they can just kind of jump around. And so you'll have things like this, which is, you know, British Louisiana up in like Canada. And that's how that works, I guess. And even though Castile does have colonies in Mexico, it doesn't look like they're doing very well with the natives down here. They're actually barely done anything. For some reason, the British decided that of all the places they could colonize, they wanted to make sure that they got these lands over here in Central Africa. I can't believe I missed this until literally just now. I literally just saw this. Say what you want about this mod, but you can't say it doesn't have a good sense of humor about it. We even have the Imposter Sea over here, so that's good stuff. I actually hadn't thought about this, but Russia cannot use the Siberian frontiers because the land has to be touching land that is connected directly to the capital. So that's a huge nerf to Russia for sure. So maybe the hordes are not going to be as weak as I said they were going to be before. Maybe they're actually going to be pretty strong. And in the end, Sweden is not looking so good. They do still exist. They're a one province minor up here in Norway. So, you know, they do still exist. But seeing Sweden get dominated while there is an independent Norway next to a massive Denmark is pretty good. I like to see that. Russia ended up doing okay, all things considered. They did a bit of expansion, but they had to compete with the British up here in Siberia because all of the islands belong to the British. And of course, we can't forget about the East India Company that exists in this timeline, I guess, on this island in Siberia. China remained a mess for the rest of the game with this Yan and Jin and Shu taking up the majority of the development. But of course, you have like Wu and the usual guys over here on the coasts. And damn, the Mughals ended up actually doing incredibly well, conquering almost all of India and actually pushing all the way into Bengal. So Mughals actually came out on top. Naval Mughals, best Mughals, it turns out. Oof. And yeah, one nation that didn't do well with all of this naval shenanigans was the Ottomans, who got cut up between Austria and Venice. And apparently the Ruskies even got in on some of the action, taking some land in Anatolia. But Venice did really good getting all the way over into Iran. And they also did pretty good in northern Italy, but the Pope took the entirety of the southern portion. And somehow, some way, Austria full annexed the French, splitting it with the Swiss and the Aragonese. So France definitely didn't do well, but Great Britain did, colonizing a large portion of North America, splitting it with the Castilians and the Portuguese. And Mexico remained a bit of a mess for the Castilians. They didn't end up conquering everybody, but they did get most of it. Of course, as per usual, South America split between the Portuguese and the Castilians. Nothing exciting there. But one thing that does get me extremely excited in this game is seeing this beautiful nation here, Kabu, the beautiful pink nation that pops out of Mali. Such a good color, and they actually pushed into Central Africa all the way up, bordering the Sahara Desert. So I would say that despite them not winning, this is my favorite thing to see. And if you can believe it, the Mughals actually come out on top with almost 2,200 development. Not that much, considering how much development is in a vanilla EU4 game. In 1821, generally there would be, you know, upwards of 7,000 to 8,000 on a very successful nation. But we have Castile with 2,000, but a lot of that actually comes from their colonial nations with under 1,000 development for themselves. Great Britain with under 1,000 for themselves as well. Portugal with only 400 for themselves. And then Venice is who I would consider realistically the number 2 great power with almost 1,200 development. Russia, Austria, and the Pope, man, rounding out the top 8. Not a single nation outside of Europe except for the Mughals, who win overall. I wish there was more wacky mods like this on the workshop, because this is the type of stuff that I live for. This one has been heavily requested. I've been asked many times in the comments for this one. So here you go. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have a suggestion for a mod, make sure you leave it in the comments below. And if you enjoyed it, make sure you like the video. And don't forget to subscribe and ding the bell so you don't miss out on future videos. Special thanks to ALS Gamer, LeGrand Puba, Gio, Josh Kuczynski, Edge Rhino, Juan Damon, Ian Powell, Cannon Fodder, Corporate Gaming, Anthony Grove, Harry Newhouse, Saranska, Ricardo, Cobalt, Rex, Total Farce for It, Drunk Binary, Nathan Albright, and many more. Thank you. For early access videos, check out the join button or the link in the description below.